The holiday originally had its roots in the American Midwest, in commemoration, of course, of the Haymarket riots in Chicago, which was marked by, of course, violence, brutality, and deaths. Tell us more about that part of history, and in particular, why, after all of it, the United States doesn't celebrate Labor Day on May 1st. Instead, it celebrates Labor Day on the first Monday in September.
Good questions. You have your May 4th movement, and it's laudatory. We have ours, it's not as laudatory. May 4th, 1886 was a day of protest in America. Protests to try to get the robber barons and capitalist leaders to adopt an 8-hour day, an 8-hour workday. At that time, 10 to 16-hour work days were commonplace. Children worked, and death and injury were their constant companions. So this protest was staged. Unfortunately, a bomb was thrown. People were killed and injured. The next day in nearby Milwaukee, people were killed and injured in another situation of protest. Why don't we celebrate it on May 1st? Well, I think one reason is that Americans don't like communism, don't like socialism, don't like anarchism. And so we tried to take attention off this day. Another reason is that we feared from the beginning, from that time, that if we had a Labor Day to commemorate the events of May 4th, that those events would be repeated every year. And unfortunately, those leaders were partially right, because many people have been killed and injured in many countries on May 1st in protest. And even today, there are protests in America against President Trump, and in France against President Trump's evil twin, Marine Le Pen, who is running for president.
A day that bears historical significance as well as current ones. Now, two kinds of work attitude: work in order to live and live in order to work. What do you think that most Chinese would fall in the first category, that they live to work?
I think nowadays, in reality, Chinese people tend to spend holidays in several status. One is to spend holidays with family, especially the extended family that usually during the work days you don't have time to pay the visit, to spend time with. And the second status is to spend holidays with friends to make up for the soft part from the normal working days, when you don't have time to socialize with your friends, to maybe to dig out more opportunities, not only in work but also in social lives. The third category is to keep on working. This is still the normal status for most Chinese people, especially when the Chinese government on the one side to encourage people to spend holidays, to work hard, play hard, but on the other side to encourage the workers by order the institutions, the organizations to pay them the double pay, the triple pay, so that people, especially the making money-oriented people, they tend to work during the holidays to get more money. So these are the three major status I observe, for Chinese people to spend their holidays, not only for the May Day holiday, but for other holidays.
Harvey, do you agree? Is that a Chinese thing?
Do I agree with what? Sorry?
Do you agree with what Hua just said over there? Is that a Chinese thing to want to work and to work more and longer hours than, say, the Westerners?
Oh, I think there's several reasons that support what Han Hua said. One is that every Asian tiger has gone through a change from terrible working conditions and long hours to better working conditions and shorter hours as they've gone from a developing to a developed country. Also, I believe that people work hard here in Asia because there's a Confucian background to this, both to support your family, filial piety, and also to honor and support the government. I think also that people here in China, especially where the social safety net is a work in progress, need to work harder and longer at the moment to put away more money for a rainy day.
There is a general reputation. The Chinese do have that reputation for being a very hard-working people. You both mentioned the economic development of the country, the financial incentives, but culturally, where is that reputation coming from? Where is that reputation rooted? Hua.
It's rooted from the Chinese history development. China is an agriculture-based society, and the days traced back to the centuries long before the BC period. That there is this one book called the Shi Jing, or the Book of Songs, have many poems and songs describing how Chinese people, every classes, from the peasants, farmers, all the way up to the noble people, they can't live without hard working. Even for the noble class, noble people, there are many poems and songs describing that the noble people need to work even harder than the peasants and farmers because they tend to bear more social responsibilities, and they need to be role models. So this is one example. And also the Confucianism happens the similar period when the books of songs was created. So it's like an interactive process that the Confucian culture also encourage people to work hard. And also because of the geographic location or position of China in particular, China is surrounded by the plains, by mountains. Only a small part of China, comparatively speaking, only a small part of China is bordered with the ocean. So our natural resources are quite limited. So the products and the productivity can only come from hard work, unlike maybe the Western countries, not to mention US or Canada or those countries, the ocean-oriented cultures. Even for the European continent, there are many natural resources and people can get from the nature. But China, because of its origin from the Chongyang River and the Yellow River, people tend to, and the decoated land area by average
Well, I'm
is
sorry to
quite
cut
limited.
you off. Well, I want to
Yeah.
raise some data with both you and Harvey here. Now, according to researchers, the average Chinese worker puts in somewhere between 2,000 and 2,200 hours each year, and OECD figures show that workers in Turkey, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, and France log in around 1,300 to 1,500 per year. There are at least two questions associated with these data. The first one is that why do the Chinese and people in Asian countries simply work longer hours? And the other is, does working longer hours necessarily mean working harder? Now, you've touched upon the why part, saying how China was it still is an agricultural society and a lack of resources compared to European countries. I want to get Harvey's point on this as well. Why do you think the Chinese and in general people in Asia simply work longer hours? Harvey?
Oh, me? Okay. I think, again, it's part of the Confucian culture. I think people are a little bit insecure here. They need to save for rainy days. Also, I think that it's a matter of status If you work hard, you advance. If you advance, you gain face. So I think it's very important for people to work hard and to achieve here. And also, as I said before, as societies go from developing societies to developed, the number of hours that people work go down. I'm sure that in the future, Chinese working hours will go down as well.
On that note, Harvey, have you noticed a shift, a change in that mentality that the Chinese work longer hours? Because the younger generation today are very comfortable with a more relaxing lifestyle, and they don't necessarily work as long or as hard as the generation of their parents and their grandparents.
Well, as Han Hua said, work hard, play hard. This is what I always advise my Chinese friends, and I think many of them follow the advice that's the case. And I think that it's very important to have a balanced life and to be able to take advantage of not only your professionalism and work or whatever you do, whether you're a farmer or a worker, but also with your family and friends. So I think it's important to have more variety. And yes, it's absolutely true that young people are choosing different paths. Some of them even work in shared office spaces, and they're trying to invent the next Google or Alibaba, and so attitudes and things are changing.
Hua, do you observe the same thing? Are we losing that tradition? Are the Chinese losing that reputation as hard workers? And if so, should we encourage the young people today to go back to that tradition and to preserve that reputation?
I think this kind of tradition is in our blood, but thanks to the modern technology development, like Harvey said, people have, especially young generation, they have more choices. They can do multi-works at the same time, and they can spend their time more freely, or they can more wisely, but still making money, have a more enjoyable life, to have more socialized time, and to invest and save money are still, the questions or the equations they need to balance out.